And all the mics...
Bless you.
All the mics sound okay?
All the mics sound great.
Beautiful. That's great. All right, so yeah.
So sorry, everybody.
Apologies.
So this guy in Grafton, he's stolen... Seems like...
How much cum did he take? Yeah.
Like 500 cattle's worth over a period of time. So
How much cum is that? Do they have like a...
$100,000 worth of semen?
But do they have like a weight? A volume of cum?
No, I can't find it.
Do they measure it in buckets?
A genetic liquid nitrogen storage tank, rather. He also had a fake vat. Wait, no, he's a real vat making fake documents. That's the thing. If he's a fake vat, it's not as useful.
No.
But yeah, it doesn't tell me the weight of the semen, just that he used it to make more cattle and stuff.
Damn.
And sold a bunch of cows. Basically what happened is he was like hanging out with his cattle or whatever.
Yeah.
And these cattle got out from a different farm and came to his farm, and he rebranded them. But like when it comes to cows, right, rebranding is just like you put a different brand on it. And people are just like, why does this have like this guy's brand on it on top of a different brand from a guy who just like recently lost a bunch of cows? And also, where'd this guy get all these cows? Anyway, so we stole all the cow cum. What do you think about that, Karen?
Victimless crime. I think he should be allowed to steal as much cow cum as he wants. Let him have it.
All right.
It seems pretty non-consensual.
Well, it also seems like he's using it for legitimate use, which is like, hey, it's crime, but at least he's not stealing it to like drink it or something.
And I guess it's as consensual as any other time a person has got cow semen.
Yeah, true.
You know?
Like, it's not worse on... Yeah, this guy hasn't done anything that's worse than, like, factory farming.
Have you seen one of those, like, videos where they're, like, harvesting bull semen?
Yeah.
And they get the bull near a cow, and then they, like, just put, like, a big, like, cow condom on him while he's, like, going at it or whatever. And then they're like, we've got it. We got the sperm.
I don't know if I've, like, seen those videos.
Damn. You seen a cow get inseminated?
Yeah, I've seen those.
All the way up to, like, the fucking shoulder, you know?
Yeah, it's like a yabby pump.
Yeah, they're just like, let me just get right in there. We sell gloves at my work, which are, like, up to the shoulder, and they're, like, livestock gloves, and I'm like, I know what these are for.
I mean, you know, people are entitled to their sexual proclivities, you know. I mean, let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom. But I ain't spending any time on it. But I ain't spending any time on it. But I ain't spending any time on it. Let there be 1,000 blossoms bloom. But I ain't spending any time on it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Shouldn'tacome, the podcast that I'm going to introduce. We are here to talk about Australia and everything about Australia. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Ani.
And hi, Casey.
Howdy.
And I don't know if you two want to greet each other as well.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Casey.
Sup, bro?
Hey.
Whoa.
Great.
Bruh.
And we're here to talk about a few different things today. We're going to have a bit of a grab bag. We don't really know. Like, we're just trying to get to the bottom of this. That's what the podcast is about. We're trying to get to the bottom of this. And today we're going to talk about the cops.
Nice.
We're just going to talk about a lot of different cops doing a lot of different things. And we're going to talk about how these fucking Italians keep implementing these mafioso-style law and order draconian policies to send our youth to prison, to mining prison.
Thank God.
Or whatever.
Mamma mia.
Mamma mia.
Mamma mia.
Hey.
So, yeah, all bets are kind of off.
Oh, no.
That's what I'm saying every day. Oh, no. I don't know what's going on. I'm glad I didn't rush the Iran war episode, because that seems to have been delayed, or it's on hiatus or whatever.
Yeah, they're still working out the next episode of that.
Yeah, and we had what looked like a conclusion, and that wasn't. I have something coming up about Australian Zionists, but it's going to take a lot more reading. And so I've got this, I guess, melange of things that I dug up for, that was meant to be an outro for the Voice for Victims episode about youth crime. And I thought we have some fun learning about this Facebook group.
Hell yeah.
With strange political heft, with like a weird amount of political heft. But then our good friend Shama sent me a terrifying fucking article, and so I've pulled a few things together to talk about. Here is the headline to the article.
Quasi-policing powers for new armed Northern Territory Police public safety officers spark concern. Damn.
Yeah, so that's like bus cops and stuff. Also, yeah, Casey is now producer Casey.
Hello. Very
That's-
official.
Yeah, I'll cut that in earlier.
We say that's PC, and we mean producer Casey.
Yeah, what's up, PC?
That's so PC.
That's so PC.
So unpacing.
Yeah, the lady we have there is Leah Finocchiaro, one of two of these fucking tough on crime Italians that serve as chief ministers in Australia. It's just odd that there's two, because there's only 8 of them in total, and 2 of them are tough on crime Italians. Why is that such a good brand here? Because we don't have a real culture. All of our understanding of the world is from mafioso movies and stuff. But obviously the other one is David Crisafulli, the Queensland Premier. Anyway, what we have here is essentially bus cops and supermarket cops being given guns. That's kind of all we have so far. The Assistant Police Commissioner said, the exact powers these officers will have has not been finalized, but it's confirmed that they will carry firearms.
That's insane. I don't even think regular cops carry firearms.
No, they a lot of them do. I don't think, a lot of them do.
I feel like I usually just see tasers.
They do have the taser.
Yeah, I think it depends on like what group of cops they're in. Like traffic cops don't always carry the guns, but the ones who investigate things like in hospitals and stuff normally do. Like if they think there might be a reason to use them.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know the cops at protests have guns.
Yeah.
It's just crazy that they figured out first, like, all right, they're gonna have guns. We will figure the rest out
The rest
later.
will work
but
out
we
later.
gotta give them guns.
But first things first, they have to have guns.
They gotta be armed. This comes literally 2 weeks after Kumanjayi White was killed on the floor of a fucking Coles in Alice Springs by cops who were restraining him.
Damn.
You know, they pinned him to the ground and such, and he stopped being able to breathe. The answer of, well, just give them guns is really difficult to understand in this context, I feel.
Yeah.
We also had warning signs here. The officer who killed Kumanjayi White, Stephen Haig, did an off-duty arrest of a 29-year-old at the same Coles once. And he seemingly got his daughter to sit on the victim's legs.
What the fuck?
In the off-duty arrest. Now, the reason I say that, and I seem to have forgotten to put this on the slides for you, so I will just hand you this photo of a citizen's arrest being done by this cop who ended up killing a person later.
What the fuck?
So, Karen, if you want to tell the people what you're seeing.
Yeah, it's this guy who, like, for starters, his head is shaped like an egg.
Not a good sign.
Bad sign.
Bad sign. Like, his hairline is so far back, it's like almost just back hair. Wait, who's the person he's arresting? You said
Just
they're
like
meant to be like 29?
This is just like a 31. I think this is a 31-year-old woman.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's small. Like,
Yeah.
and he's got his knee on her back, ostensibly the back of her neck, and has his daughter like grabbing her legs.
I think that's his daughter. She's not like an employee at the shop.
No,
or something
because
like
she's
that.
not wearing a uniform.
I
and
have to assume that's like his daughter or something.
That's fucked.
Because if it's not his daughter, it's a random teenage girl who was also there.
And like her face is blurred out, right? But
Yeah.
I can like by the way the pixels are, she looks like she's smiling.
Yeah. She looks like she's having a great time.
Oh yeah, that's a smile.
Yeah.
It's like I'm putting this on my Facebook. This is gonna be my profile pic.
Yeah.
Smile.
Because she's not really holding the lady down. Like, she's kind of doing it for the photo.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, no way. That guy ended up, like, killing a person.
I think he should just be like shot in the street. Like
I mean, yeah, he's a bad egg.
That's a bad egg.
I think we should scramble him, and by that I mean we need to put him in like an industrial blender. Humpty Dumpty. And just blend him up.
His colleagues would probably agree with you. Like, there was a youth worker at a local Indigenous outreach center, and he was like, yeah, this guy Haig, he would come in and he would like yell and carry on while looking for kids who were wanted for like misdemeanors or whatever at like a youth center.
Jesus Christ.
And like he would threaten youth workers with arrest for intervening with the course of justice when they'd be like, hey, don't like just come in here and yell and scream.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, when we talked to the other cops, they were like, yeah, sorry about him. He's
We'll
just
do
like,
something, you pack of weeks.
honestly, why, like, don't stop letting him go to the youth center. Unfortunately, we have some free association, because do you remember when a different Kumanjayi was killed by a cop in the Northern Territory?
Yeah.
I am, of course, talking about the case of Zachary Rolfe from a few years ago, a psycho racist cop whose father owns a bunch of luxury car dealerships around Canberra.
New Rolfe Protons from 11,990 drive away.
Yep.
He went to the Northern Territory. His texts were leaked where he's like, oh, I can't wait to... Look, I don't remember exactly what the text said, so for legal purposes, this is an interpretation of the text, but his texts were basically like, I can't wait to go up there and kill some Indigenous people.
Yeah.
if you remembered this situation.
Mr. Rolfe was also questioned about text messages shown to the court in which he used racial slurs.
The fact that I have said coon in my messages, that kills me. So I'm sorry for that.
Mr. Rolfe told the court racist language is used everywhere in the NT police.
Yeah.
He is now on the public speaking circuit.
Of course he is.
He's charging about $10,000 for ethical decision-making seminars.
Oh, because he's really good at that.
Yeah.
And we could all use some of his advice.
Yeah.
Ethically, I'm going to pull his toenails out and shove them through his eyes.
It is
in an ethical sense. I'm going to pour bleach down his tear ducts.
And you're going to make people pay you $10,000?
Yeah, $10,000. Yeah. You can get tickets. It'll be...
Auction off the toenails off.
Exactly.
You make the toenails an NFT?
Yeah, exactly. He's only got so many.
Non-foot toenails.
Yeah.
This is a whole terrible thing. There is a whole police crackdown in the Northern Territory. The Country Liberal Party came into power in August of 2024, and they made it illegal to drink in public. These fucking hypocrites.
Yep.
And they also made it much harder to get bail. These fucking assholes. This has predictably led to a spike of people who are on remand, which basically means they're held in jail, but they haven't been formally charged yet. Now, before we convince ourselves that this is a Liberal Party problem, the number of people on remand has been growing since 2020. Obviously during COVID, but also during a Labour government. The next slide has a little chart, which, I don't know really what the purpose of this is, but just so you can see the chart, the different colors are different governments, and you can see that it's just been going up since 2020.
Yeah, absolutely.
People who are in prison, but not charged with anything, just being held until they are charged.
Yeah.
And bail is harder to make happen.
Damn, yeah.
Yeah. So this is absolutely a policing problem. And we don't even get to tend to hear about the worst of it.
No.
Here's one for you. The Law Enforcement Conduct Commission, the LEC, L-E-C-C, the perennially attacked and underfunded government body that investigates police misconduct, well, they found that a senior police officer had fucked up in a serious way in New South Wales. Now, I'm going to be very vague here because that's all we have. So there's this guy, we get to know him as CAE, and he's in custody. He hasn't been charged with anything yet. The cops are told that he has a history of self-harming in custody, and he has a mental health condition, a pretty severe one, and the officer, who we know as EAC1, was he's bunging on because he doesn't want to go to jail. That's his exact words. He's bunging on because he doesn't want to be sent to prison. He's pretending like he's got mental illnesses. While they're taking him to prison, he's slamming his head against the car so hard that it starts shaking on the highway. We know that this happened more than 6 months ago because that is how long after an incident like this that an officer can be charged.
Right.
You have 6 months to charge them.
Yeah.
The recommendation made by LEC was to extend this period to 12 months.
Yeah.
They weren't able to talk to CAE, who's the victim here, who, while in custody, kept slamming his head into the window, into the wall of the cell, hard enough that blood and the injuries could be seen on CCTV.
Yeah.
And the officer's he's faking it because he doesn't want to go to prison. It's well, can you blame him?
Yeah, brother, that's method if he's faking it that much.
That's method. And we don't get to know where or when this happened, other than I think it was in New South Wales. Meanwhile, on Mermaid Beach, we spoke about this in the Patreon episode, Ray Stevens is too nervous to kiss the girl. Wait, so that's the wrong mermaid story.
Yeah.
MP Ray Stevens wants to criminalise vagrancy again. When I say again, it was actually illegal to be homeless in Queensland until 2005, and then it's been 20 years, but prior to this tirade from Ray Stevens, he was best known for his racist nickname for Jackie Trad, a Lebanese person who he called Jihad Jackie.
Classic.
When asked to apologize, he said she had to harden up. And he's I'm going to use jihad as a general term for anyone who's Arabic or anything like that. So that's Jihad
I'm
Amir.
Ray Stevens.
I'm Ray Stevens. So down in South Australia, Sapole, S-A-Pole, Sapul.
Sure.
Supple.
They have dropped the spelling and numeracy requirements they previously had for new cadets. So they've been unable to recruit enough cops for a while. And you see, there's so many illiterate people out there who'd like to be police officers. And so, not that anyone in this country can fucking read anyway, but the police is basically saying, you don't have this requirement for any other jobs. Really, we're already requiring way too much of our police officers that they pass this literacy test.
What?
Yeah, so now they don't have to do that anymore. Whatever.
Nice. But also, they should have to pass additional tests. They have more power than any other job, like, comparatively.
That's the thing. You're not giving guns to anyone else.
Yeah.
They're like, doctors don't have to pass this test. It's like, yeah, but they have to pass like
Yeah, they have to pass the fucking GAMSAT for starters, and then they have to, like, go and do, like, 8 years of medical school, and also you don't give them guns.
Yeah, you don't. That's
Like, I think there's a lot of just.
That's the thing.
I think it's so funny that, like, they can hand warrants to people, but they don't know what it says.
No.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't fucking read
It's just like, write me a ticket, and it's like, just scribble on it, and they're like, there you go.
Why is there a smiley face?
You have been given a court order. Go away.
It's
Like,
all
right.
It's like mismatched capital and lowercase letters.
Fucking crayons, backwards letters and shit.
Oh my god.
Order spelled O-R-D-A-H.
Yeah.
Oh.
Been given an order.
All right. Well, I have been advocating for mass spelling reform in this country. We need to start spelling words like you can't say them. Like, none of you say the R's. Why are we writing the R's? These kids are confused.
I say rural.
No. No, I don't need to, because we're talking about Adelaide. That's right, we boo Adelaide. These illiterate cops in Adelaide are being given about $7 million to replace their old semi-automatic pistols with flashing new ones.
Oh, good.
Yeah, these guns are mostly going to be used to kill animals. I'm using statistics that 83% of the times South Australian police have used their firearms over the past year and a half was for killing animals.
Of course.
The lawful destruction of animals. That adds to the $6.5 million from a recent budget for new police vests. Hilariously, during the recent arrest of Gaurav Kundi in Adelaide, where it's alleged a cop did the George Floyd knee on the neck to him, one of the body cameras fell from the vest.
That's crazy. I hope that doesn't happen again at a critical moment.
No, I think this is with the new vests.
Yeah,
They
but
got,
I'm
like-
also saying, like, fell in quotation
You know,
marks.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, so this one, we're not going to go too far into this, but this Indian guy, the story that I read, and I didn't get it from any source when I was reading about it that I, like, trusted enough to say is what happened. But the idea is that him and his wife are kind of arguing because he's, like, going on a walk while he's wasted.
Yeah.
And she is like, come back home. And he's like, no, go away from me. He's kind of, like, stumbling around arguing.
Yeah.
Cops come and restrain him, and there's footage of the cops restraining him, and then she stops filming, and the cops' body cameras fall off or whatever. And then she's like, after I stopped filming because they put their knee on Gaurav's neck.
Yeah.
Which is the thing that famously kills people.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we never did that. And the camera fell off, and he is dead from asphyxiation. So it's like, well, what else happened then?
Yeah.
9 News doesn't have footage of the moment the man became unresponsive, but his partner alleges that he was injured when his head was slammed into the police car and the road, and that while he was on the ground, he was kneed in the neck.
Like, if it isn't that killed him, what did kill him? But yeah, we'll see if anything comes of that, I suppose. But I don't think they got their money's worth on the new vests, so they'll have to get new vests.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
More vests.
Further south in Tasmania, we for once have a police officer getting shot. This is Constable Keith Smith, who is attending a property near North Moulton and was fired on by the person in the house. And if you read the Sky News article, it's going to feel like Keith's attending some kind of immediate domestic disturbance. They use the phrase undertaking routine duties a lot, but Keith is a constable. The main job of a constable is to repossess homes, and the more responsible reporting of The Guardian, for instance, makes it clear that that's what happened here.
Oh.
He was going out to repossess the home. North Moulton is a tiny town of about 400 people, and a police officer from the city has shown up because the courts decided the resident of that house isn't going to get to stay there anymore. The guy in the house shoots the cop who's coming to take his house and kick him out to the street. Can you blame him?
No.
From a human perspective?
No.
In so much as the cop's just doing his job or whatever, it's your job is to kick people out of their houses for money reasons.
You know?
It's just, can you blame the guy for shooting on him? And you can kind of see how that's framed. Some articles are on the far right side of the spectrum, kind of are painting this guy as a criminal who deserved to get shot because he didn't pay his rent. Then you have the kind of Sky News where it's right, but not crazy right, and it's they just don't mention it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of start to learn it's because he was being kicked out of his home. It's after a while, it's this is a rural community of 400 people. I imagine he's probably hunting. He has a gun or whatever.
Yeah, and also in a small community, what are his other options? You know? It's one thing to be homeless in a city, it's an entirely different beast to be homeless in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Exactly.
Where, like, doing it rough has a whole new meaning. Because it's just like, you are quite literally fighting the elements like that.
Exactly. It's like it's a cold place. So, as Tasmania, as usual, things are fucked down there. I didn't think we'd actually hit the ACT today, but on the 10th of June, the Ombudsman. So, the Ombudsman is a person who handles complaints against government agencies or whatever. They released a review of cases in the use of force by police in Canberra. They found that at least a third of cases when police used force were a result of unprofessional conduct and unnecessarily inflamed situations by the officer.
Yeah.
That is, the cops started it by being a hothead. And the report had this little line about, hey, the cops should actually use the cameras that they're meant to wear. Weird. These cameras, right?
Again.
On the cameras. So the LECC, the LEC, we talked about them earlier, the Law Enforcement Conduct Commission, they had 15 recommendations regarding the body-worn cameras in New South Wales in the last month or so. One of them was like, hey, they have to work, because about half of the cameras that officers have on their person are broken, and the watchdog can't access the footage most of the time to verify things that the officers say.
Yeah.
But what's that noise? Is it the second largest first-level administrative division by area in the world? Western Australia?
Western Australia, or WA, as it is referred to in the local dialect.
There's not much happening in WA police-wise in the last month that's hit the big news in the last week or so, though the Western Australian state budget has earmarked $30.8 million to overhaul their IT systems, the police IT systems, except for the guns IT system, which has a separate $13.7 million attached to it.
Naturally.
Not to be outdone, the New South Wales government is spending $46.3 million on a new boat for the police.
Oh, good.
Which is called the Nemesis.
Oh, good.
What the hell?
They can do longer patrols or whatever. It's like, yeah, we can be out at sea for 12 days. It's like, don't.
Yeah, why the fuck are you doing that?
No one's asking.
Isn't that somebody else's job?
No, it's the New South Wales Police's job.
Great.
They're trying to make up for only being the 20th largest political subdivision in the world by area. So I was on the Wikipedia page for this thing, and I want to get it all out. So in the top 20 worldwide, WA is second. So this is state. Basically,
Yeah.
WA is the second largest state in the world.
Yeah.
Queensland is 6th. The Northern Territory is 11th. South Australia is 17th. And New South Wales is 20th.
Damn.
We're just like, cut it off.
Who's first?
Like this Russian state, like next to Siberia, in
Hell
the
yeah.
northeast of Russia, like north of Mongolia and stuff.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That tracks.
Yeah, and then like some Canadian territories and stuff. But yeah, 3 Australian in the top 11. Anyway, back up in the 6th largest state in the world, Queensland. The police minister, Dan Purdy, said that public drunkenness might be made illegal again, after less than a year of it not being illegal anymore. Apparently, it's made it hard for police to do their jobs if they can't arrest people for being drunk.
Okay.
That's what the... God, I forgot to write down who said this. I think it's the commissioner. But yeah, a police advocate, you know, those people, was basically like, yeah, like it was really important for us to be able to arrest people for being drunk to stop things from escalating or whatever.
So they escalate it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we have to arrest them. So, but they're, you know, thinking about making it illegal again. And it comes on the heels of Jack's Law being made permanent, which is a terribly whitewashy way to describe increasing police powers to randomly metal scan people in shopping centers, train stations, on random streets. So they found knives in like something like 1% of the cases. Like 1% of the time they do a metal body scan, they actually find a knife.
Yeah.
And they're not even, you know, accounting for, I think, the moral case of whether it's like, should you or should you not have a knife on you?
Yeah.
I don't think that's something that the police would ever consider, because they're like, but it's illegal, mate. But the laws don't seem to impact the amount of knife-related violence. Like, there's been studies that have shown, like, oh, that hasn't changed the amount of stabbings there are or whatever.
No.
And a youth advocate is quoted as saying, most of my clients wouldn't be aware that it's an offense just to carry a knife. Because, like, why would that be an offense?
Yeah.
If you're, like, living kind of rough or whatever. Damn, I'm really hitting hard on the police today, aren't I?
You should.
It's fine, though. Don't worry. If you're worried about the cops, they have engaged the services of a fully integrated positive change agency. It's called Think HQ, for their Everyday People Legendary Work Project, to advertise how good a job the police are doing.
I'm telling you, they hacked the hackers.
How do you know?
Dave's mum works there.
Can we track it?
God.
And how you can join in. I found a very funny interview that the founder of ThinkHQ, Jen, did in May of this year, 2025. She was asked about a defining moment or experience that shaped her path to starting this advertising firm. And she says,
One was when I asked a very famous creative director how he ethically balanced his passion for great creative against the reality that many of his clients were doing damage to the community, whether it be socially or environmentally. His response was so patronizing, and it was so clear to me he'd never even thought about the impact of his job in that way. Looking at the industry more broadly, it was clear that very few people were thinking about it, thus the opportunity.
Same year, she's like doing this like, how good are the cops thing.
That's so fucking dumb. It's just like, I think we should be more ethical about these things. But I love cop boots. They taste so good. Oh my god. Minority blood.
Minority blood.
But it's like they can't think for themselves, so we need to make a HQ so that we can teach them how to think properly.
That's
It's
bizarre.
It's just dog shit. And like anybody who supports the cops, I think you deserve to be kicked straight in your asshole. Like there's nothing. That's it.
Straight in the asshole.
Straight in your asshole.
Straight in the asshole.
I want you to shit bad for a week.
Slap them so hard their egg snaps.
Exactly.
Damn. Well, that's kind of how this place is. So that's what the cops have been up to. As I mean, you know, obviously I've selectively picked some stories of. I've selectively picked from the ample stories of cop.
I was going to say there was something that was happening recently that I don't think you mentioned, which isn't necessarily about cops, but it is about prisons. And it is about the fact that there's been multiple inquiries into suicide in prisons, including at the Alexander McConaughey Centre, which is the one in Canberra. It was built while we were living there.
Right.
Just the amount of, what was it, like ligature points or something. Frequently, inmates will kill themselves by hanging from these like suspension points.
Yeah.
And every single time the coroner's like, hey, you need to get rid of these because inmates are going to kill themselves. And the prison goes like, yeah. I mean, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do that. And it's like, just cover this one beam. And they're like, I don't want to. I don't want to cover the beam. I like the beam. That's not fair. And then another, like, 6 people die, and it's like, oh, they're ruining my beam.
Like, speaking, I think, appropriately cynically, I think a prisoner coming in and killing themselves is probably economically best for the prison.
Of course.
I imagine they get the most money from the system that way.
Of course.
Because it's always full anyway. So it's like, we can take someone new in, they probably get a bonus for that.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's really telling about prison and how counter prison and jail is to the idea of rehabilitating somebody. That part of prison has to be preventing people from killing themselves because it's kind of assumed that someone in prison is likely to kill themselves. So we kind of are accepting that we are putting them in a situation that if that person has decided it is a worse situation for them than death, they're not allowed to kill themselves.
Yeah, like the ultimate amount of suffering has to be, I don't know, it becomes some perverse form of justice where it's like, yeah, justice isn't rehabilitation and justice isn't penance. It's like how much suffering you can draw out of a person.
Yeah.
And how much financially you can get for that suffering, which is, you know, whatever bonuses like.
And often those two things like go together as well.
Yeah.
There was actually something that I briefly saw on the news earlier. It seems to be this one's at Parkley Prison. All right, so a protest has been held inside Parkley Prison after an Aboriginal inmate has died. A group of inmates have held a peaceful protest over the death of a 41-year-old Aboriginal man at Parkley Prison in Sydney. The man died at Westmead Hospital on Friday evening after being transferred from the Correctional Centre for treatment. They've had a peaceful protest in an accommodation unit. Yeah, cops, huh? So here's the thing about cops. There's a big cohort of people who love them and love their work and want them to have more power.
Which is like, you have to be a certain type of brain damaged.
Which is like a shame because it's thankfully not a huge, at the moment, voting bloc. But I think there's a lot of people in this country that, broadly speaking, are like, yeah, a police officer is a hero. There might be bad ones, but it's good that we have them. And I obviously I don't quite understand that way of thinking. The typical argument against that is like, well, who are you going to call when someone breaks into your house and tries to rape you? It's like, well, I don't know. It's probably the cops doing it. No.
Well, look, it's kind of like, hey,
citizen malicious.
what was the cop gonna do?
Yeah, what's the cop gonna do?
Arrive and ask me why my pajamas are so sexy?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they're not helpful in that situation. Anyway, so I thought I'd have a look at one of their discussion groups. And so I've joined the Voice for Victims Facebook group.
Yes.
I've been in it for a few months now. It's a weird little place. We did a main episode about the youth crime panic, and we did speak a little bit about the Voice for Victims Facebook page, and I thought we should just start with the description they provide.
This group was formed as a reaction to the inaction of government to effectively control the scourge of youth crime in our communities. We are mums, dads, retirees, employees, employers, homeowners, tenants, and so on, just like you. It's a really funny list. Excuse me. We are the broader community that is sick of the criminal having more rights than the victim. We are tired of our nights being the domain of criminals roaming our streets, and we, the community, remain locked up behind bars. We have had enough and demand immediate action from our government leaders. Through this group, we will raise statewide awareness and coordination of rallies and similar events to allow the community to stand up together against crime in our homes and streets. We are a peaceful group, and we just want right for the communities we live in to be safe, orderly, and ours once again. Please, we welcome your involvement and look forward to your support. Warm regards, Voice for Victims. Also, I'm so sorry. The list, we are mums, dads, retirees, employees, employers, homeowners, tenants, and so on. We are like 8 different things, but like kind of exclusively those 8.
Yeah, a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Like, you can be a homeowner.
I'm a retiree, an employer, a homeowner.
And a mom.
And a mom.
You can be a few things.
And, I have been an employee, and I have tenants. And
yeah,
so
you can be all, yeah, it's a specific kind of list.
It's a colourful life. I want to meet this person.
I want to meet that person who is a mom and a dad and a tenant. This person, this is the victim mentality man. This is the victim mentality, I suppose. We've spoken about it before. It's a phrase that I don't say because it's kind of poisonous. It's often wielded by conservative types against, young people who aren't happy against the obvious terrible things they can see. But these guys really explicitly define themselves as victims. The group's called Voice for Victims. So I suppose they are reclaiming victimhood is what's happening here.
Yes, slay. Reclaim it.
They have explicitly have a victim mentality.
Yeah.
And they're represented in Parliament. They have a rep in the youth crime panel in Laura Gerber's office or whatever. So yeah, I've been in the group for a while. It's not very good. I'm not actually on Facebook, so the Facebook account that I use for it just kind of has this in it. There's about 8,000 members in the group. There's probably more now. It's probably 2 months ago when I put this together. It's certainly mostly older folk. There's a lot of profile pictures that aren't a picture of the person that the profile's for. For instance, this is a frequent poster to the group.
Oh my god, is it a car or a flower or it's a doggy?
This cute little dog frequently calls for returns to physical punishment.
Kieran, would you like to describe the dog?
Yeah. It's kind of like a red-headed dog. It's a little Pomeranian mix, I would say, because it looks a little funny. Its eyes kind of bug out, kind of point in different directions. And he's got his mouth open and his tongue out, and he's kind of happy. But you can see behind those eyes is I guess a hatred for children that
Well, no, this dog credits
or just crime in general.
Well, he credits the strap for teaching him right from wrong.
This dog is a queer ally. He loves the strap.
Who doesn't?
I meant the hitting your kid strap.
Yeah. Yeah, hey kid, I'll hit you with the strap or whatever.
That's pedophilia.
Okay.
So, here's
and bestiality?
Yeah.
Is it bestiality if the dog does it to the kid?
Yes. It's bestiality if... Yes, definitely. And it's also bestiality if the kid I was referring to was in fact a baby goat. And I'm like, I'm gonna get that baby goat with the strap or whatever.
That's such a good lyric.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm gonna get the baby goat with the strap. So, youth crime.
Call her baby goat, because she's a kid. It's a new Drake lyric.
Oh my God.
You know, when kids are young, they don't necessarily comprehend everything.
Right.
So it can get a little freaky.
On one of this dog's posts, one of the commenters gives a terrifying account of what her mentality has apparently been like her entire life. Who wants to do Italian accent?
I'm so happy to.
Go on. All right, Karen.
Okay. All right.
Do your Luigi accent.
Oh, no. Yes, I had strict Italian parents. I was scared of nuns and teachers, and I started work at 16 and was afraid of my first employer, too. Now I am 60. I'm definitely not feeling safe on a bus or train, even.
She's like, yeah, this is why we need to keep making these kids afraid.
I have, how you say, generalized anxiety. I'm scared.
Like, she's like, I'm just scared all the time. That's why we need to punish these kids more.
Yeah, I think we need violence in the streets because I'm scared of violence in the streets.
And I think everyone should be too.
Yeah, go off, I guess.
Yeah. So these terrified.
Get on sertraline, you pussy.
They honestly need to be on.
Get on some of that Lexapro. Fuck's
They
sake.
need to be on some Lexapro or just like drink the right drinks. They're drinking the wrong things. There's so many ways to be.
You know what?
Like
it's the fluoride in the water.
It's the fluoride in the water.
Oh, I thought it was like the Three Monsters.
Oh fuck yeah. Yeah. I drank 2 white monsters and have accidentally created a third.
Shapeshifts.
What?
That's fine. I was referring to a meme I saw.
Were you referring to a meme?
No. It was
Oh
just
my
like
God.
people get anxiety when they drink too much caffeine.
The drink monster.
The drink monsters.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
see,
I was like, what monsters?
I saw a meme of a guy, like, a white guy, like, holding his head and he's just drank 2 white monsters in succession and have accidentally created a third.
Just hulks out.
And he's just like...
That's what these terrified old people are drinking, I guess. And they are Lindy's cash cow. She has been selling shirts and caps to support the cause or whatever. It's got the logo on them. The Voice of Victims logo has their name in yellow, which is the color of the racist right in Australia for some reason. A QR code that goes to their Facebook group, a megaphone, and a picture of handcuffs. So they're not subtle. They are a group of loud people organized around a Facebook group that want to arrest children.
And, like, a lot of these people, I'm sure we'll get into it when we discuss more about the page itself, but just have no other personality traits. And so they're like, well, I'm oppressed, actually. Actually, I'm the victim, and I've always been the victim. And that's why nobody likes me, because I'm a victim.
And thank God nobody likes them. Because can you imagine these people with a following? No, I don't know if I mean that. I think they probably do better with some friends. These guys on their Facebook page, when I checked, they had a smash and grab at a jewelry store at the top of their Facebook page. And the top comment from some guy named Scott is...
Immigration! Thanks, Albo.
That was so good in the earphones.
Immigration, thanks, Albo. To be clear, the people in that video are brown. Those videos get huge play in this group.
Of course they do.
Brown criminals. And there is an undercurrent of racism that the main moderators are trying to fight. And because there's 5 moderators, and they're all like middle-aged white women.
Yeah.
Who I don't think want to see racism. But,
Well, yeah, because they're like, oh, well, that's not on Scott.
And there's a bunch of people like Scott, or like people who say like, the usual suspects. But there's also like old white women. There's a lady named Debbie who's like, her slogan seems to be, so she comments this a lot. She's like, let the third world in, get the third world.
Oh my fucking God, Debbie, shut up.
Debbie! But I also saw arguments where commenters are like, hey, why are political comments being removed? And it's like, okay, there's like a racism by omission thing going on. It's like those comments are there and then they get deleted. And... Anyway, I as a brown person, I obviously see it, but I see racism everywhere, and that's my own problem. They, as racists, know that they feel it, but it's not out in the open, and so we can't tell that they feel it. And if you're a well-meaning, frightened person like your classic middle-aged white Australian lady, a very specific story is being told. So this video was creepy.
Sounds of the dog squad searching in suburbia. Sniffing out alleged teen criminals in Old Burleigh Town.
Police dog squad, you two get on the ground now.
hands up, then face down on the ground. A 15-year-old Robina boy has since been charged with unlawful use of a motor vehicle. The two others, both 15 and 16 from Burleigh Waters, are facing similar offences as well as stealing and enter premises. They'll face court in the coming weeks. McKenna Bailey, 9 Gold Coast News.
I see your eyebrows, both of your eyebrows went up at the same thing, the artful close where you have...
Yeah. Just like, and the dogs did their job. Looks like it was this dog's day. Looks like those criminals made a dog's breakfast of their escape. It's a dog-eat-dog world for these boys from Robina.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking bitch, and I'm a dog cunt.
And right at the end, I think the creepiest bit for me was like, McKenna Bailey, Gold Coast News.
Yeah, because it's cringe, and it's dumb propaganda that doesn't take much thought to produce, but has that same subconscious effect of being like, wow, isn't that cool? Wasn't that a cool cinematic moment we all witnessed? I think positively of dog squads now.
Yeah, because it was like artful.
Yeah.
It was like artfully done.
It was artful and distasteful.
Yeah.
And low-key, you should use Archie for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we're gonna get Archie to chase some cops down.
Yeah.
And then we'll get him barking and be like...
Yeah, you use the cop screaming noise as a...
Oh, there we go. We like, Yanni X. Shouldn't have come. All right, so, yeah. Dogs roaming the streets is great content for these, like, old people or whatever. The ladies in the group love the doggies. You get comments from Julie and Kathy that are like, well done to the QPS and their dog squad. And then there's a spirited, good, lock them up from Amanda.
Yeah, and it's going to be that same, like, the Venn diagram of people who love the dog squad are people who are just like, oh my god, dogs with jobs, that's so cool. And other people being like, I hope those beasts tear the criminals apart, I hope they drink their blood.
You've kind of spotted it. The fellas in the comments have given us their suggestions for the future of these children. They're like, no point, they'll be out on bail the next day. That's from John. And they're going to get stuff all from it and back out, from Michael. And then local parents have some questions to answer. That's from Ben. Brian comes out the hardest against my entire worldview. Brian's complaining. They'll get the usual bail, the usual poor Johnny, hard upbringing, mental health issues, nowhere to live. Great work by QPS. It's like, oh, boo-hoo, you're a poor, sick, homeless kid. Get over it.
Get over it. My tenants won't let me raise their rent. I'm the one who's suffering.
And yeah, importantly, you can't see the kids in this video. They're completely blurred out, as you saw, so the race talk doesn't show up. In another video that plays on the group, the teens are of visible race, as it were, and the comments have been turned off. I imagine it's because there's some deleted ones. But before that happened, though, we did get some hits, like this meme of Yogi and Boo Boo talking. Karen, do you have a good Yogi and Boo Boo?
Maybe. Hey, Boo Boo. I don't know what Boo Boo sounds like, but...
Boo Boo, I think, is like... I don't know what Boo Boo sounds like.
I'll have to do it in a Mickey voice, then. Is it them again, Yogi?
Boo Boo, it's always them. Boo Boo.
Wow, and then we've got, what are these comments? Vermin that needs to be eradicated immediately. But when, David?
So that's from
says,
Steve.
Yeah, more scum that need to be taught a lesson. Come see me, you lowlives. And then Steve says, we need to be able to take the law into our own hands to protect ourselves. And Paul says, agree totally. You are probably old and infirm.
They were all both like grey hair.
What kind of like, this is, and this again falls into that same idea of the patriarchy as well, where like these older guys can't let go of the fact that they aren't like alpha males physically anymore. And it's like, these young bucks, well, they should come try it with me. You will shatter, my brother.
You'll shat yourself.
My brother, shatter. You don't have the calcium for this anymore. Like, you simply can't do this. You have to get prostate checks. Like, it hurts when you piss. Like, you can't fight like a 16-year-old.
No, 16-year-olds.
Especially when they're on so much energy drink. Like, they could just vibrate through a wall. Like, what the fuck?
There's these, like, I don't think I ended up keeping it into the episode, but there's a cause celebre in the Voice for Victims group, which is about this army veteran guy, and he's huge. And he gets into a fight with some teens in a car park, and it's not really clear how it started, but he does like, he is fighting these teens in a car park, right?
Which
We
is
get the
insane.
video
Like-
from when they're fighting, and he gets injured in the end, right? But I just like, hey, how did you get into that situation, really?
Yeah. It's
Like-
embarrassing that you lost your cool enough in front of teenagers that you engaged in a fight with them. Are you dumb and stupid? Like,
And I went into it for ages. Like did we talk about this at one point? Like his medals, like he's like, I'm a veteran, but
oh yeah, and they were like his grandfather's medals or something.
yeah, like in the picture, it's like, and he's wearing his grandfather's medals, but like I couldn't find any records of him actually serving. It seems like he just like enrolled in the army.
Yeah,
kind of. But whatever. We don't. But I didn't end up including that in here because it just went too deep into like Australian war medals, and I'm not interested in that.
That's fair.
Like I'm not. Look, the funniest guy in this group is Francis. I kind of love Francis. You're about to see him. He's the highest profile voice in the group that isn't white.
Okay.
But he's not really a voice in the voice group. He just reposts videos from 7 News. Like all the videos almost are Francis cross-posting 7 News.
Damn, okay.
I haven't seen him make any comments, but here's a photo of Francis with someone you'll recognize.
Oh my god.
Australia's ambassador to the US,
Kevin fucking Rudd.
Yeah, what's going on here? Is Francis a Kevin Rudd pro-China influence operation?
Yes. No further questions.
More soon.
Getting Slurpees together.
Getting Slurpees. He
They have
means
the same glasses.
in a 7-Eleven. And that's the only photo of Francis on his page. It's just this photo of him with Kevin Rudd. And he's in the Voice for Victims group being like, more cop. But he doesn't say anything. He just posts these videos. And it's like, are you just riling them up?
What's the go, Francis?
What's the go, Francis? So, yeah. Francis just posts videos usually from the QPS. QPS, shared 7 News, so, crime stuff. Jewelry store heists, armed robbery, car crimes, police action, and then all the comments come out with their, like, very Sharia law style punishments. I saw one that was like, chop their fingers off. And they bemoan the paucity of our justice system at delivering the pain that they want. The active members are mainly middle-aged white women and older white men, and then there's Francis. It's an odd little group. I suppose it's the tip of the echo chamber that this frightened property owner class resides in. So I want to do some cherry picking before we get into that like property owner real estate angle behind all this, because I thought it would be fun.
Yeah.
First, I searched Africa to see what's been said, and here's one by a local beautician who made the move across sometime in the 1990s.
Maybe we could get armed response teams, pay a monthly fee, and press a panic button. Oh, fuck, I've lost it. Fuck.
It's a tough one to keep.
It was good though.
Fuck.
It was good
I
though.
started. I just need to get back into my South Africa. Like, how did I do it the other day? I was pretending. I was pretending to be French, and then it turned South African. Maybe we should get armed response teams, pay a monthly fee, and press a panic button when under threat. This is just Irish. Doesn't matter. I'm just gonna say it normal.
Yeah, go on.
Maybe we should get armed response teams, pay a monthly fee, and press a panic button when under threat. This worked well in my hometown of South Africa. Together, they helped the police.
Weaver, who I think is a cat. Yeah, Weaver is a cat, says,
If our army wants to do something, maybe they can patrol our streets and take down these terrorists.
Terrorists.
This is terrorism.
Oh, man. So
This is modern terrorism talking.
This one's from a lady who's a bee. She's got an old lady name. I don't want to dox her, but it's a real old lady name. It's Bernice.
Nice.
There was a long comment thread, mainly from women. Funnily enough, that's what I think about us. Yeah, who run the world? Girls. Anyway, this was a comment thread on a crime that was attributed to 4 male Africans, and this is a conversation between Bernice and Tammy. So,
Want to bet nothing will happen? They won't be jailed, then deported. All who were involved will have 0 consequences. I say stop migration.
Bernice, they would have been born here, so they are Australian.
We need the same regulations the Americans have. For criminals, they can go back 3 generations.
that's not true in America.
Bernice just being like,
I read somewhere on the internet that you could kill anyone if you asked nicely.
The anti-COVID people told me.
I think we should give them the vaccine
That's
and then
facts.
they'll have autism.
I mean, that'll work. The boys in the group are more straightforward about these 4 African males. We have Rodney, who's like these African scum. But Judy's the most explicit. Sudanese come here and breed like rabbits. That race is often seen around Brookwater stealing cars. It's a joke what's happening to our country. Deport them. Whole family. Then when some more muck up, deport them.
It is outrageous.
Damn, what an idea.
Yeah, she's just like, yeah, Sudanese, that's the car stealing race.
Yeah.
My
You know,
goodness.
the French have pastries, the Russians have vodka, the Sudanese steal cars. It's just, you know.
The circle of life. So nothing really came up when I searched Israel, but something really weird happened when I searched Muslim. Almost every post that Facebook thought had Muslim in it didn't. Even in like the comments, the body of the comments. And I think this might be because the moderators of the group are deleting those comments.
Right.
Because all of the posts that came up also have an admin turned off commenting for this post. So I'm pretty sure what's happening is that a bunch of people are like, these fucking Muslims are bringing Sharia law. The moderators delete the comments. Facebook's still finding them, but isn't showing them because they're not there. There was this old guy named Peter who's like, you can't walk around in some suburbs of London because local Muslim groups patrol the streets implementing their brand of Sharia law. Oh, it's raining.
That just fucking sounds fake.
Well, because it is fake. How would that work?
It just
in
is
London. What are you talking
in
about?
London. Like, yeah, you know, I think there's like a level of deranged a lot of these people are that is kind of embarrassing. And it speaks to not having very many friends and family members that don't want to talk to them.
Yeah. Like,
because if you had like a level head in your life, you probably wouldn't have such shit opinions.
No.
But you don't because you've scared everyone away with your bullshittery.
yeah, and as someone who's like doing that to a lot of people in my life, but from the left, iconoclasm, being an iconoclast.
Iconoclastic?
Yeah, iconoclastia is kind of addictive, but it's also like a lonely position to have.
Yeah.
And it there's a point, and that point's really early on, where you're just being a contrarian. That point's kind of the start.
Yeah.
But yeah, so not much else about Muslims, but immigrant brought up some fun ones. So when I searched immigrant into the group, we have this from Angela, who has this to say about why judges aren't effective.
A lot of the judges are immigrant elites. Need to sack them and start again.
So she links to a page in that comment, right?
Yeah.
It's the Queensland's government list of Supreme Court judges.
Yeah.
That page has all the judges of the Supreme Court. I will read some of the names out in order. David Bodice, John Bond, Helen Boskill, Thomas Bradley, Sue Brown, Peter Callahan, Sean Cooper. The list goes on, and it's absolutely just a bunch of white people. Like,
what?
I went through the list a bunch of times. It's just a bunch of people named like Sue Brown and Sean Cooper on the page that she links.
What the fuck is she talking about then?
I don't know. She links to a page like specifically being like, look at these judges, they're immigrant elites, and they all have like they all have Anglo names. They all just have like regular old Australian white people names.
And she like, look at them, they're British.
I don't know what it is.
Disgusting British immigrants.
Callahan.
Yeah, she saw Sue Brown and she's like, that's a
She
color.
was just like,
That's
brown,
a color.
Brown.
Like, I don't know what she...
Sue Brown, that's an instruction.
Like, immigrant elites, is she able to tell they're British from... Because, like, the thing is on the names... The pages don't really tell you much other than, like, when they became lawyers or whatever.
Yeah, because why would you give, like, personal information?
And I went to all the pages and I was like... These are just, like white Australian lawyers. So, yeah, very funny. Let's talk about real estate. Property owners come into all of this, kind of. It's more of a... They both go in the same direction than necessarily a link. But property owners' interests and crime panics are aligned sometimes. Deb Frecklington, the...
Classic.
You know Deb Frecklington. She is the member for the Gold Coast or the member for David Crisafulli's old seat. I've forgotten what her actual thing is, but she's
in there somewhere.
She's a high up liberal, and her mum shows up. Her mother-in-law showed up in an episode recently as well. So she's linked youth crime directly to the cost of living, but not in the way you think. In a dumb shit essay on the 5th of May 2023, Deb said that the youth crime crisis is driving up cost of living pressures because of the effect of insurance premiums.
That's a joke. You assume people have insurance. I don't have fucking insurance. I can't even afford insurance when there isn't a cost of living crisis.
Youth crime's driving up how bad the insurance is.
What?
Yeah, you can't get insurance because, like, we can't insure your fridge. Kids are going to steal it. Or whatever. Just the most incoherent shit.
But my toaster insurance.
I can't get my toaster insurance. Kids are going to steal my toaster and my TV. I can't insure them. The Gold Coast Bulletin in 2024 said that the scourge of youth crime is driving up apartment prices, but their site has a paywall, so fuck them. I'm not... Like, it's a hard paywall. There's paywalls you can get around, and then there's hard paywalls where it's like, it doesn't let you get to the page. It's just like a... Fuck those people.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to make fun of your... I want to make fun of your news site.
I'm not paying for this.
I'm going to deconstruct your...
I mean, that's the thing. It's always dog shit news. I'm not reading behind the headline, but yeah. So all this talk about property prices brings in the final character we're going to meet today. He was a founding member of this Facebook group with weird political power and a prominent face at a lot of their rallies, but he's kind of disappeared lately. And that is Ben Cannon. Ben Cannon was a humble, powerful real estate agent with McGrath and a neighbor of Totai Kefu. Totai Kefu is an Australian rugby legend.
Kefu, All Blacks marking up now. Kefu almost through. And here's Kefu now. A try would put Australia in the lead. Kefu. Totai Kefu! Did he get it? That's the match winner! That is the match winner! Kefu!
God, talking about legends.
Yeah.
What a sneeze.
Shot out of me like a fucking cannonball.
Like a tracer bullet.
Like a Ben Cannon.
Like a Ben Cannon.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. So, Totai Kefu is an Australian rugby legend, and they're always showing up in these stories. In every story we tell, there's an Australian rugby legend. I think I think when I was talking to you that you were like, why are there always rugby
Every
legends?
single story almost has one.
It has
the
one.
Clive Palmer one had like 2.
Yeah.
They're like
two different guys.
You know? You see one, there's 20 more hidden somewhere
It's like
close
a cameo. It's like a Stanley cameo.
Yeah.
It's just like the movie has nothing to do with them. By the way, he just shows up.
Oh, yeah, and then there's this guy, and it's like, yeah, sure, fuck it, why not?
And if it's a sitcom, it's got like the applause for like 2 straight minutes.
So this guy, Totai, he's a legend of Australian rugby. He's currently coach of a forgotten which team. I think it was the PNG team, but actually that might be wrong. Maybe the Tongan team. Anyway, he's an Australian rugby legend, and in 2021, he was stabbed, and his wife and kids were also quite badly injured in a home invasion. After which, neighbors came to the family's aid to restrain the 15-year-old attackers. One of those neighbors is Ben, and there is an initial press run with Totai praising Ben's heroic actions as the two of them talk to Karl Stefanovic and the Daily Mail and all the people who cover that in that way.
Yeah.
A year later, in November of 2022, Ben talks to the ABC. He elaborates on the incident, where he's like, I hurt my knee, and it required him to undergo physiotherapy and wear a brace for several months. He talks about the psychological impact of it. He couldn't work for 6 months. Now, to be clear, I think Totai did go back to work. But yeah, he says he's like at a set of traffic lights, and he's like, I don't feel safe, and he just starts crying because of the incident. And then he says the police are doing an amazing job, but the government and the courts, they don't care about the victims. He claims to have been offered a private meeting with the premier, but he's like, I want it to be a public meeting. And the premier is like, no. And then he keeps referring to an us, and I don't know who that is, but he does say us as victims a lot. So us is all the people who have been affected by youth crime. In terms of what it is he wants, he says, no one's ever reached out to us as a victim and sort of said, hey, is there something we can do to help? Which I would argue, like, the whole police infrastructure is that.
And also, that is also just how it is with most crimes. There isn't, like, the cuddle police section where they come and say, like, are you okay, buddy? You got everything? Like, that actually doesn't even happen. If you got king hit out on a night out or whatever and you're in a hospital for, like, 6 months in a coma and then you wake up, like, there isn't, like, a police officer being like, hey, bud, you all right?
They haven't
hey,
posted
buddy,
it out.
how you doing, huh? You feeling okay? Like, that's not how that works.
They do have those, like, folk that go out to check the mental welfare of people. And I think in a case like Ben Cannon and Totai Kefu, who live in a nice part of Brisbane, those cops probably showed up.
Yeah.
Like, if anyone is getting emotional support from the cops, it's Ben Cannon.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's just an advocate, you know? So, I don't I don't know that he isn't informally affiliated with the Liberal Party. The LNP Greenslopes page calls him a local Cooperoo hero, Ben Cannon, in a video about how bad youth crime is.
Naturally.
The Voice for Victims Facebook group was started on the 23rd of July, 2023, and it seems like Ben was a founding member, but his account doesn't exist anymore, and all of his comments have been deleted. There's a lot of comments that seem like they were tagging him, you know, where it's just like the person's full name is at the front of it, but it doesn't go to a page or anything. And in August of 2023, he left McGraw Balimba to join Place One Group. And in that article, they're like, yeah, we're proud to have Ben Cannon, who's also the founding member of Voice for Victims. But on the page currently, it's just a 404, so he's not with Place anymore either. He doesn't seem to be a real estate agent anymore.
Yeah.
In November of 2023, he was appointed to an independent ministerial advisory council. In one of the first hearings on November 23rd, he's like interrogated, I guess, because it doesn't seem like the council love that he's there. And they're like, why didn't you join an existing like victim advocate group or something like that? And they're like, why do you want to remove the principle of detention as a last resort, given all the evidence against doing that in legal scholarship? Because that's one big thing. They're like, we want these kids to be going to prison early. They advocate for that specifically. And they're like, is your group representative of victims who are the victims of most crimes? Poor women? No, that's not who's in the group. And Ben says verbatim, we have never asked for a child to be locked up.
I mean, that's an interesting thing to say given some of the comments we've gone through.
Yeah, and like they are the handcuff the kids group.
Yeah.
They're like...
It seems like the premise of the whole damn page.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like Voice for Victims of Youth Crime.
Yeah.
There's a big argument, and Ben talks about how some kids are stealing coke, but some kids are raping and murdering people. And there's a lot of arguments about moderation in the Facebook page, and Ben's name comes up in a lot of those arguments.
Yeah.
Ben also says, and I'm paraphrasing here a little, but Ben says, the government will say 40% of crimes are crimes of opportunity. But we say 100% of crimes are committed by a person who chose to commit the crime.
Okay. Well, I also think that's factually incorrect because I feel like at least 15% of crimes you didn't know it was a crime. You know?
Yeah. And it's also like, I don't, want to get into determinism style things here, but yes, that person has chosen to commit the crime. We need to be asking why that seems to be the decision that they've come to, because in general, the kind of shit that crimes are inconvenient things to do.
Yeah.
And so, hey, why is the world taking him there? That doesn't matter to Ben Cannon.
No, of course not.
And, he hurt his knee or whatever. In June of 2024, the teens in the Shouldn'ta case were sentenced to 7 years and 8 years, about half of their existing lives up till that point. They were 15, 16.
Yeah.
So, based on how their prison time goes, they were going to have to serve at least half of it, due to special circumstances determined by Judge Davis. The judge did find that their crimes were particularly heinous in all the circumstances, which it turns out that's a legal term, particularly heinous. But if a crime's regarded as that, it meant that an act is intended to cause grievous bodily harm and other malicious acts. Legal jargon's hard to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of those committed by the child could get the kid 10 years or up to life imprisonment, which, what do you mean or? But then they adjusted that back from 10 years because the kids are, young and troubled. I think it's heavily implied that they're refugees, but I don't know if we have that as a fact. But this is what humans try to do. They're like, yeah, these kids are young and troubled. At the end of the day, no one died.
Yeah.
Notably, it's been almost 3 years since the actual home invasion, so these 15-year-olds are now 18 and have been in custody since they were 15.
Yeah.
And, they've done these particularly heinous crimes, but they've got a difficult upbringing. All we really know about these kids is that they're Sudanese. And given what they're doing, it seems like they probably have had a difficult upbringing in some way or another. Whether or not they're refugees, I wonder how many times up till that point, based on what the judges have said, that they'd experienced things like homelessness or sexual abuse or family violence or whatever it was that led their families to leave Sudan. Putting them in prison for 7 years at 15 means that at the time their blood is going to run hottest as untethered young men, they're going to be in training to be further alienated from the world.
Yeah.
Once you're in prison, that's where gang life starts.
Yeah.
That's where people coalesce around people that they look like. That's how they're going to struggle to reintegrate into society in any meaningful way. And it kind of comes down to what we were talking about earlier with like, you're putting people in a situation where they can join a gang or kill themselves.
Yeah.
As what society is telling them to do, and you are taking away the option for them to kill themselves or going to join a gang.
Yeah.
Like, that's the ways to survive prison or get through prison.
Yeah.
So, the Attorney General of the time when this happened, Yvette D'Arth, so this is from the Stephen Miles government. Like, this happened under Stephen Miles. So she appealed the sentences, saying they were manifestly inadequate, having regard to the maximum penalty. At this time, the maximum penalty is, like I said, 10 years or up to life imprisonment, which I don't quite understand. So the maximum penalty, I guess, is life. But they're saying in regard to the 10 years, I don't know. So Ben Cannon, at the time, he's still known as the leader of the Voice to Victims group, although he's like, I've taken a back seat in the group. He's going to get involved in the appeal because of how low he thinks these sentences are. The 7 years for the 15-year-olds, right? His exact words are like, I've got fire in the belly again. So the adult crime, adult time laws are only a part of the wider Making Queensland Safer laws that the Christopher government has passed. We hear a lot about removing the principle of detention as a last resort from the Ben Cannon things. So the idea of that is we need to try everything before we put the kid in prison.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously not going to help. But the court is now no longer even allowed to consider that idea of detention as a last resort. The specific wording is, the court can no longer consider that a non-custodial order is better than detention for promoting a child's reintegration into community under the Youth Justice Act of 1992. They're not even allowed to think that anymore. This is what Christopher said. He's like, nah, not true. So what we're doing here is creating a grievance-based justice system for middle-class home-owning Australians. The laws, kind of incoherently, say that the rights of victims now take priority over the rights of young criminals. That's like a quote. Which, I just, whatever. As though it's like a zero-sum game, right? Like there's only so many rights, and like you got to take the rights from these people to give them to those people.
Yep.
Going on to say that the impact on the victim is the primary consideration of the court. And that obviously leaves a lot of room for the victim to decide how big their impact is.
Yeah.
And they're also creating a way to track all of these kids. It is the Victim Eligible Persons Register, which is a debased term that I suppose means like, yeah, sounds like you're a victim, but seems to have already existed. But now it is an opt-out system. So you're going to get updates if something has happened relating to a teenager has committed a crime to you or whatever. They're going to keep sending you updates about the teenager's case, so you can know what's happening to that kid.
That's fucked.
So gross.
So while victims advocates groups like bemoan that a court would consider what might have happened to a 14-year-old who's breaking into houses, like how dare they think about like, hey, buddy, what led you to this?
Yeah.
They do celebrate that the new laws passed by the Christopher governments allowed the entire childhood criminal history of an offender to be taken into account for each case. And you know who's going to be there to hear it? Victim advocate groups. Because the new laws also ensure that victims of crime, their families, and the media have access to the children's court for their relevant matters being held.
That's fucked. That's fucked.
You can give bigger sentences to kids. You aren't allowed to consider their life histories. You are encouraged to consider their so-called criminal histories. You have to prioritize the rights of victims, and they get to be there to watch.
And it can be publicized.
We're getting so close to public zoning. Like that feels like what they're trying to get to.
Yeah.
They already, like, we have police officers in schools now, and we've spoken about police officers today. We have this online dragnet. We have aggrieved adults accessing the courts, and they're putting 13-year-olds in prison for life based on what some scared property owners think. So, on Friday, April the 11th, 2025, when the appeal against the sentences given to the teens in the home invasion was heard, Ben Cannon was there to hear it. Tote Kefu does not seem to have been there, with the ABC noting that he had attended previous court hearings. But his neighbor Ben is, and his neighbors make this comment. These individuals made the choice to enter my neighbor's home and bring knives and inflict mayhem, and yet it seems like they're about to start their life story without any implications. Anyone knowing who they are, which for us is hugely disappointing.
Jesus Christ.
Did Tote ever make a statement?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I have, we'll get to this statement pretty soon.
Yeah,
but
okay, cool.
He does a pretty big interview, but since then, him and his family, and I haven't looked into it too much, but they're not involved on the Facebook group. They're all like in the Facebook group, but none of them ever like any posts or anything like that. I don't think they don't show up to the court cases anymore.
I just feel like, where they're talking about like the voice of the victims, and Ben is literally playing a victim. Like, he wasn't even the person who got in that situation.
His injury, like the injury that he's talking about, is like he twisted his ankle or something.
Yeah, like on the way into their house.
Yeah, and like, Toto does say like, yeah, Ben jumped out and helped, but also I don't know, Ben does seem like the kind of guy that would be over exaggerating, for instance.
Well, he's a real estate agent. You can't trust him as far as you can throw him.
So the Brisbane Time is quoting Ben at the court case. They're like, Ben, you've been doing all this advocacy. What do you think? And he says, personally, it has left a mark on me that I am undoubtedly a different person, but I certainly don't want this to be my legacy, but it definitely changes you as a person. I hope that through today we will see justice served.
Shut up. Shut up.
I don't want this to be my legacy. He's seemingly stopped being a real estate agent.
Yeah, this is the only thing you're doing.
Is this actually one of the few ways you could make a move away from real estate officer and damage your legacy?
I suppose this is one of the few ways. I mean, the only other thing you could do is become like,
a cop.
Well, I was going to say a heinous sex pest, but yeah, same thing.
Hey.
Anyway, the ABC provide an in short about the article, and they note that a teenage offender has been released from jail and another is set to be released, which is a weird way to say it's been 3.5 years and the teen served the 3.5 year sentence that he had to serve. Because, like, the rule is, like, they only have to serve half of the full sentence as long as while they're in prison, everything's fine.
Good behavior, etc.
But, like, a teenage offender has been released from jail and another is set to be released because they've
completed their sentence.
They've gone from 15 to 18.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
In a child's development. Ben will not have that. Knowing that they're out there while we're still going through the heartache and pain this suffering has caused is further insult.
You hurt your knee. Oh my god. Oh my god, shut up.
He's like, this is such an insult. I hate him so much. He's such a piece of shit. I really hate Ben. I want to contrast his reaction to this with Totai's. His family were obviously like the main victims of the incident. His wife was stabbed pretty badly. A few of them, I think 3 of them had to spend some time in hospital. His wife was the one who found the teens in the house and she screams. And Totai like runs down. He like breaks his foot because he like jumps down the banister.
Oh no.
But he's like, the adrenaline is running. He's like, I don't feel it. He's like a big boy. He plays rugby and stuff. Like, I guess if you've played a lot of rugby, just like jumping over a banister doesn't seem like as crazy as an idea. Pro tip, everyone out there, just use the stairs.
Yeah.
Just use the stairs. And he grabs like a knife, right? Because he doesn't know what's going on. And then he runs into the room where everything's happening. He's like, these are kids. And he says, this is a quote, "When I put the knife down, I thought, I can't possibly stab these kids. I can't do that. And they were so small, I thought, well, look at me and Josh. We could probably overrun these guys."
Yeah.
And Totai, I looked up his stats. He's about 6'3", weighs about 120 kilograms, and he is, again, a rugby legend. He played for Australia a lot. I know it's not a home invasion, but a scrum is probably quite stressful, so he grabs a stool and he tries to overpower the kids, trying to keep them away from his family without, like, trying to stab them or whatever, and get them out the front door. And he's like... He says to the news, he's like, I was telling them, cut your losses, boys. There's the front door. Get out of here. The chat that they have is just a couple of months after the actual home invasion, but he doesn't express any anger. He says, and again, this is a quote, "Those kids, I feel sorry for them. They're not going to have the same life my kids are going to have. We should pray for them." And then the article notes that he gets teary-eyed talking about how, my son looks at Sudanese people differently now, which was really heartbreaking to read.
Yeah.
Like, the thing that's seemingly affected him most is, like, my son has some, like, racism in him now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, these kids need to be prayed for.
Yeah.
Like...
And, like, it sounds like he is somebody who is worldly and has experienced a lot of things and has probably known or been around kids like that before and been like, oh, I get it. You're in a fucked situation. You're doing whatever because you're a kid and you just don't know how to process things. And so, him being an adult is like, hey, I can recognize, regardless of your race, that you are a child.
Exactly.
Instead of just seeing black equals scary equals danger equals man when it very much equals boy in this instance.
And it's his house that got broken into.
Yeah. And he's
it's
like,
his family that
and the
got
fact that
stabbed.
he's like, even if his family is attacked, he's like, well, I'm not going to like attack a kid.
I can't stab a kid.
I can't stab a kid.
In the moment, feeling that way.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he talks about it in that article as well, in the interview. Like, his family are, and like, I can't believe I didn't write this down. I think his family are Tongan. But I guess apologies to the Kefu family if they're not. I'll record something in. But yeah, I think his family are Tongan. He's like, yeah, when we came to where they grew up in Australia, where they were living in Australia, they were the only family that were like Pacifica in the area. And people treated them like they were criminals all the time. And I think his family specifically are quite religious. So he's like, I didn't understand. Like, I live a very straight and narrow lifestyle. I have a very religious family. We're very devout. And yet by the public, I'm treated as criminals. And he was able, like, he was not, I think saying he was able to relate that is kind of patronizing. He obviously saw the connections between that and how these kids got to where they are in their lives.
Yeah.
He's an adult about it. And he's, like, I always am checking, like, has he said anything about this? He never talks about the kids. He doesn't interact with the Voice for Victims group. He doesn't show up to any of these things. He does have, to be fair, like a proper job. He's the coach of, I think, again, Tonga, but it might be Fiji. I don't know why I think it's Fiji. Anyway, I don't care about rugby. I think that's important. I don't actually care about the sport, but he's good at it or whatever. And he's like a coach of a national team. So I don't know if it's just like, it's not worth it for him to be talking about this kind of stuff. But I honestly think he doesn't feel like what Ben feels, like reading between the lines a little bit. Not. And it stands in stark contrast to every other voice of a youth crime victim that we've heard from today. A lot of like white homeowners. And I took a lot from it. Like I got a little teary reading about like his feelings about it, like especially when it comes to his son. Like that's a really like affecting thing to feel. Like this has hurt my son's soul.
Yeah, he is very much seeing a perpetration of a cycle of hatred and violence, and seeing that infect your child, and like being able to see it and be like, oh no, this is exactly what I didn't want for you in this life.
Exactly. Being like, you know, those boys are not going to have the life that my kids had. It was heartbreaking to read, and it's his family that were like put in significant danger. His wife, like her burn was exposed through the stabbing. So the Carefools, as I've said, haven't really made any public statements about the case, and I guess that makes legal sense as well, but Ben certainly does. And he's very specific. He's like, any failings in this case are a result of the justice system's lenience and not the police, although he does think there need to be more police because of how lenient the justice system is.
Because that makes sense, King.
You know, more cops to get the kids out on bail. And that's when I started getting too deep into the story, and I tapped out from really investigating Ben Cannon. His cousin also played representative rugby, which is, I think, like how he knows Tautai Kefu or whatever. Like, it's just like everyone, like that's the path to power in this country, is playing representative rugby.
Or riding off somebody else's. He rides off his brothers and then he rides off Tautai's victimhood.
Yeah, he rides off the fact that his rugby player neighbor got stabbed. That's his current career play. He's a real estate agent.
Well, he's a leech.
He's a leech. I mean, that's exactly right.
Which is just what a real estate agent is. He's just found something that's going to be more beneficial for him, perhaps socially, perhaps in like monetary capital, than, you know, selling land.
Than hustling.
Should have done less damage and bought a mine.
You know?
Should have just fucking bought a mine, honestly.
Or a dinosaur.
Or just buy a dinosaur park, So I got to assessing people's like Facebook accounts, and I was like, I think I've gone too far deep. So I don't know if Ben's going to really come back into the story. He felt really important, but he's kind of gone quiet now. His Facebook's gone, his Instagram's gone. He's not listed on the real estate pages, and I'm not sure if he's going to rebrand and come back as an earnest political figure, or if he's... Wait, sorry. I'm getting some news from a couple of days ago. He's back on Current Affair. He's advocating for youth offenders' names to be broadcast so they can own up to their problem. And he says most of these kids aren't returning the favor by getting their lives on track.
It's disgusting. I mean, as a victim, you see 4 years, and that's the reality of what their incarceration is. The second piece, with their no record of their name, is just an absolute disgrace, because the Kefu name, the Cannon name, the various names that are tied to these crimes throughout the state, they become the legacy, as opposed to these young criminals, these thugs, and their families having to wear the burden. So we've got to call this stuff out. It's abhorrent, and these individuals' names need to be broadcast. They need to be known to community so that two things can happen. They can wear the legacy. I think it's abhorrent that he's even allowed to have this appeal heard.
Yeah, well, can I just say, Ben, keep working hard because you are making a difference, and we really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
How would you know, King?
What favour?
Yeah, what favour?
He's
and
like,
also, don't you want them locked up forever? How is that getting their lives on track?
but he's like, nah, their names should be like they have to own up to it. They have to take responsibility for it. It's like you've already sent them to prison. I thought that was the responsibility. He's like, it's just not long enough. He's like, I want to see more pain happen to these kids. Anyway, yeah, I fucking hate this guy.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of obnoxious tone to these people. There's a mix of people who just seem to hate kids, who seem to hate immigrants, who don't care about kids who have difficult lives, who expect that a child should be nice, and when they're not nice, it's the child's fault. There's an undercurrent of blood here. These people are praying for justice. They want to see public pain be inflicted on people that are ultimately the victims of a system that benefits real estate agents and landowners.
And also, isn't that simply just the thesis of boomer parenting?
Go on.
Children are always at fault.
Yeah. That is the thesis of a strand of parenting that I think we were all raised with. Like, I think kids now get a bit more understanding, but you can have the idea that the kids are at fault and go, okay, how do we go from the kids doing this thing to not doing this thing anymore, and not go through, like, we need them to be, like, publicly humiliated, violently punished, put into worse situations. Like, there's personal responsibility politics, which is something I don't really believe in at all, especially for children, right? But then there's, like, braying for blood and, like, wanting to see pain inflicted on the people like that. Like, it's a disgusting, uncivilized way of conducting oneself.
Yeah.
And I think it's telling that this is, like, a powerful real estate agent.
Yeah.
You know, like...
And I think it's telling that these seem to be people in the Facebook group and stuff, like, are the haves as opposed to the have-nots. And I think there is a violent desire to protect the status quo involved in much of this, which is why they want to see absolute insane punishments, because then they can be the little lordlings they've always wanted to be.
Exactly.
And,
little emperors.
Exactly. Little emperors with their little kingdoms, and everybody else is just, like, peasantry scum.
Yeah, I think there's a gentrification side of this as well. When you are, like, the process of gentrification, we kind of hand wave the middle of it, where it's like you have low house prices, you have people who can't afford to buy in their traditional areas because there's too many rich people, and so they're buying up the low house prices, and eventually the people who already live there can't live there anymore. But there is this middle process of that happening when you're gentrifying a suburb, where you have people who are of lower income and people who are of higher income living together. In general, that's really good for everybody. Like, there's studies that show that when you have, like, mixed income suburbs, it's really beneficial for the kids especially. But you will also have issues where things that you see in large ghettoized areas, like, as it were, youth crime, kids breaking into houses, however it was, happened to relatively wealthy homeowners in that area. For one thing, they're people who aren't of the community, and so there's no, like, oh, I don't want to break into that person's house because there's someone that I like or whatever.
Yeah.
But for another thing, they will have nicer cars, their house will be nicer maintained, and they'll, there's a few people in that group who are just, like, South African. Like, that was pretty common. They're South Africans who moved here in the 90s, and they're like, this is like South Africa. And
you'll be right at home then, you fucking freaks.
Honestly. Yeah, like, that was fairly common. And yeah, that's what I have for everyone today. I don't really have a thesis. It's, I guess, an ongoing story. It's also a weird one because I don't know where it's going really at all. I don't know if it is going anywhere. There's just, like, these angry people who now have the ear of state government. Like, this is Queensland, a state where the police have historically held undue influence. Anyway, next week we'll talk about Israel or whatever.
Yay.
And I'm really hoping that, that the voice for victims, at least, like, that group, doesn't have long-term political influence because they seem kooky.
Yeah.
I think they're kooky.
Well, I mean, luckily they all mostly seem old other than
That's
Francis,
true.
so it's not as if they can learn a new platform.
That's true. I don't think they'll be able to move to TikTok very easily.
No.
There's a bunch of like middle-aged moms in the group as well. It is a really funny dynamic because like they're having different arguments because the middle-aged moms are talking like middle-aged moms and the dickhead white supremacist men are talking like dickhead white supremacist men, and so like that like the comments don't like match each other in turn. But that's Voice of Victims. Thank you everyone for joining us for this, kind of meandering episode through a Facebook group and Australian policing and Yanni having some White Claws.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
I'm sleepy. We'll be back next week. We'll also be back in a few days on the Patreon on Sunday. We'll have a new news roundup episode up. If you would like to support us, you can go to patreon.com/shouldntacome. That is SHOULDNTACOME. You can also email us at shouldntacome@gmail.com. I've been Yanni.
Casey.
And I am Kieran.
And that's Archie. He's asleep. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope your weekend goes well. And I hope if kids break into your house, you hit them with a chair.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.